Let's say the Sixers do the impossible this season, aka stay healthy or relatively healthy. For Joel Embiid, I would say that's around 60 games. Now, the past 2 seasons haven't been good for him. 19 last season, the year before that, 39. But remember, before that, he had a nice 2-year run. 68 games in 2022, 66 games in 2023, where he ended up winning the MVP. Also, from 2017 to 2023, Embiid played in at least 50 games. In most of those seasons, he's actually played above 60 games. And the win percentage for all those seasons combined has been 63%. The average win total for those seasons was actually 50 wins per season. So a relatively healthy Joel Embiid should result in around 50 wins. And last season, the Indiana Pacers were the 4th seed in the Western Conference with 50 wins and 32 losses. I think a very fair expectation if they were to hypothetically stay healthy would be a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference. Going over to Paul George, I would say a relatively healthy season for him at this point, considering he's coming into the season with an injury already, would be around 50 plus games. Looking at his basketball reference, you can see, he's just been inconsistent in this aspect, and there's outlier seasons. Like, what the heck happened in 2023? How the heck did he play 74 games for the Clippers? That 23-24 season really fooled Daryl Morey. Now it's time to look at the Eastern Conference to see how the competition is. In my opinion, there are 3 teams that I think will have a better regular season than the Sixers, even if they are relatively healthy, even if the Sixers get really lucky and everything clicks. My number 1 seed in the East is the New York Knicks. Their vibes last season consistently weren't great. Despite that, they overachieved in the playoffs because their roster is just extremely talented. And I think firing Tom Thibodeau is like firing Doc Rivers. Naturally, they will get a jolt. Remember, the Sixers came out swinging in Nick Nurse's first season. There are just simple adjustments that I expect Mike Brown to make. You also saw the Cavaliers under Kenny Atkinson first season absolutely killed it. I expect something like that. I don't see Mike Brown treating Josh Hart like LeBron James like Tom Thibodeau was doing. He was playing him like 40 minutes a night, and that was a huge part of their problem. I was like, he's only LeBron James against the Sixers, but against everyone else, he's just a bench piece. Despite all their issues, they won 51 games last season. I think they're going to be around 58 to 60 wins next season. Next up, I got the Cleveland Cavaliers as the 2 seed. They won 64 games last season. I definitely expect a regression, but they are built to dominate over a long regular season. It kind of feels like they're the new Philadelphia 76ers. Great regular season success, but you really don't fully believe in them because you haven't seen them do anything in the NBA playoffs. And last postseason was very Philadelphia-esque because it was really ruined by injuries, but you saw players such as Ty Jerome, who was a killer in the regular season, just fall off. Darius Garland, because he was in and out of the lineup, was very inconsistent, and it was really just a one-man show from Donovan Mitchell. But hey, maybe this is the year the Cavaliers finally get over the hump. The East is wide open. Now, the number 3 seed and the last team I believe the Sixers have no chance of being better in the standings is, of course, the Orlando Magic. Last season, they had an injury-riddled season just like the Sixers. If they stayed healthy, they would have been the surprise team of the Eastern Conference. They would have been a top 5 seed. All they need is to stay relatively healthy. I think they can even, overcome injuries. That's how talented their roster is. The Desmond Bane addition was great. Both Paulo and Franz are legit in my opinion. So getting that third scorer, that consistent third scorer, can just do wonders for the roster. And then they have elite role players like Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner who are very underrated. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if they finish above the Cavaliers. I think a healthy Sixers squad would be in the next tier. I would say at the top is Detroit. They were the 6th seed last season. Everyone's assuming that they're going to take another jump. I just don't really know. They didn't do anything crazy in the offseason. In terms of their young core, I really only believe in Cade Cunningham and Asar Thompson. Jaden Ivey is still a question mark at this point. They really started winning once he went out of the lineup. But overall, I wouldn't blame you if you put them ahead of the Sixers based on last season, but I don't think they're far and away better. And in a playoff setting, I really don't believe in them. Atlanta's very interesting. I feel like they have an underrated roster. They got rid of Clint Capella, who was basically the Andre Drummond of their team last season. Added Kristaps Porzingis. Of course, you have to rely on him health-wise, just like a Joel Embiid and Paul George. But my goodness, with Trae Young on the floor last year, they were still a top 5 offense. If they can figure out the minutes without Trae Young, which I think they can, adding Nickeil Alexander-Walker and Porzingis, they're going to be a formidable squad. And many forget, but mid-season, they were really figuring it out, and then Jalen Johnson went down with injury, and he was playing like a star player. Now, he had a tough injury, so I think he'll take some time, like maybe 2 months, to get back to where he was. But overall, if Jalen Johnson is healthy, Atlanta's going to be a very good team. But once again, both Detroit and Atlanta, if everything goes perfectly for the Sixers, I don't see why the Sixers can't be ahead of them. But it could easily also go the other way. But I would have the Sixers behind those teams. But also, you can't forget about the Milwaukee Bucks because they have Giannis. Just like Joel Embiid, it feels like if you have him on your team, it's a guaranteed 50 wins. Boston and Indiana, everyone's expecting them to, I guess take a gap year with the injuries to their superstar players, but I feel like they're actually going to be like a Miami Heat type of team. Their record might not be the best, but any given night, you don't want to see them because they're capable of getting hot and beating anyone. My thing with Boston, though, is it seems like they're really trying to make it a gap year. They got rid of Porzingis for nothing, and their front court situation is not good. They got Xavier Tillman, Luke Garza, Keita. They let Luke Cornett walk, who was definitely a starting caliber player with the situation that they were in. So I would definitely put a healthy Sixers team above them. I mean, if Joel Embiid and Paul George are playing, you better finish above the Celtics. If Jason Tatum is out the year, Brad Stevens is basically saying, without saying, we don't want to compete at all. It will be interesting to see Jaylen Brown in a number 1 option role. And also, Peyton Pritchard, I think he's going to start for them. I think Peyton Pritchard can go crazy if he starts. And then beyond that, the East really starts to drop off. Miami's probably going to be the same as last season. Chicago probably the same. Toronto is a wild card. They got a bunch of talent. It doesn't really make sense. They haven't been able to stay healthy either, but if they do somehow figure it out, they could be a top 6 seed in the East. I wouldn't be shocked. Then the bottom of the barrel, Brooklyn and Washington. I think Charlotte might be like a play-in team. They had an underrated offseason, adding some quality role players in the draft. Maybe LaMelo finally stays healthy. I would like to see them make a jump because LaMelo is very fun to watch, in my opinion. But overall, recapping, I think the top 3 is set. The Knicks, the Cavs, the Magic, whatever order, those teams are pretty proven. And then after that, it seems like a big question mark, and I think the healthy Sixers can be in the mix anywhere. Yeah, the East is pretty unpredictable outside of those 3 in my eyes. So let me know your thoughts below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? The East is wide open. Hopefully the Sixers get lucky.